Well, hello and welcome in. Remouse Casey McAllister. 39-34 final score here. We are live at Smoke Justis here in Covington, Kentucky. It was a game in which the Cincinnati Bengals were in firm control pretty much from the opening drive. And everything flipped on the dime in the most Cincinnati Bengals way possible. A weird play in which Joe Burrow tried to huck it over a defensive player. It was returned for a pick six. And then the next play was another interception. And then from then on out, the Bengals were out of the game and essentially out of any aspirations to make the postseason. Like I said, it was a game in which the Bengals, for the great majority of the contest, were in firm control, but it was one that slipped away in only the way that the Cincinnati Bengals could. It's almost like, Casey, as I welcome you in here, Joe Burrow giveth and Joe Burrow taketh. He was perfect, borderline perfect for 95% of the game. But there was two plays in back-to-back possessions, the pick six and then the batted ball, and that's why the Bengals lost today.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have put it any better. I mean, I think both plays really just kind of shocked Burrow, to be honest with you. They weren't really running a lot of screens, especially Jamar's way, of all things. But Benford, give credit to him. I mean, he just jumped on that ball. And immediately, I mean, he whether that was the defensive coordinator calling a perfect blitz at the right time, on the right side, that just so happened that he makes a play, or he saw something in film and just jumped on it, kudos to him. That pick six, unbelievable on their side of the defense. And then the following play, Joe Burrow, just really unlucky, man. How many times has a ball been deflected in his career and it ended up being
early in his career? A lot.
As of late, not much, I guess. And
he hasn't played a whole lot as of late, but yes. So here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say, Casey. We as Bengals fans, we do this a lot, and it's understandably why. They have, throughout the history of Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, he has made game-winning play after game-winning play. He's taken us to heights that we had never seen before, which is, first off, winning a playoff game, and then 5 playoff wins, Super Bowl, back-to-back AFC championship games. And we know that when Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Tee Higgins are out on the field, this team's elite. This offense is elite, and we saw that for the great majority of the game. But we do make excuses over and over again for Joe Burrow. There's a lot of plays in which the Bengals didn't execute well enough. You can look at that final play where Josh Allen runs. It's 3rd and 15. They drop back to pass. All we have to do is either elicit an incomplete pass or just take Josh Allen down before the line to gain, and this game can continue on. Or at least the Bengals have the ball in their hands, down a touchdown, a chance to win the game. But, of course, the linebackers don't make the play. Josh Allen rushes for 40 yards the play before the drive before we have the pick six, which goes for a touchdown. So this defense failed them in the second half as well. But it just proves what I have said ever since the story came out about Joe Burrow coming back early. Where the Bengals were, and this Bengals team as a unit, their margin for error, Casey, is so small. It is minuscule. It is minute. It is borderline. You can't even see it on a microscope. That's their margin for error day to day. We are here live at Smoke Justis in Covington, Kentucky. We did a full watch along. It was great. Their margin for error is so small that even Joe Burrow, who was perfect for 90% of the game, he makes a mistake on 2 consecutive plays, huge mistakes that they are, a pick six and throwing it into a defensive lineman's hands that eventually gets picked off. Those are enough to overturn what was otherwise a dominating performance from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, unfortunately. They weren't able to stop anything really all day. Big play after big play. This defense has shown time and time again that it cannot be trusted. They can't tackle. They got a turnover, 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
Or no, they got a turnover. I guess turnover on downs. I'm going to count that as a defensive win, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. This team really needs to find some cornerstone defenders to really just step up and make plays when they're needed, because it really did just come down to that 3rd and 15 play. You stop them there, and you give Joe Burrow another chance. They had just went down and scored, on like a minute drive, maybe, the 2-minute drive.
Yep. So
I like Joe Burrow's chances with a minute left to go, and they just couldn't do it. They gave up a 20-yard run to Josh Allen. It just is really tough to put all the burden on Joe Burrow's shoulders. And the defense just time and time again puts them in positions where they're just not able to succeed.
All right, so here's the breakdown of what happened here in the second half of how we got to this point. Joe Burrow completes a pass to Mike Gesicki for 12 yards, 8:44 to go in the fourth quarter to go up 25-17. When that happened, 28 to 18. Apologies, I got these scores all over. 28 to 18, 8:44 to go in the fourth quarter. When that happened, the Bengals' win probability of the game in the snow, up in Buffalo, at Highmark Stadium against a team that's 8-4 and hungry and trying to win the AFC East, was 92%. The only thing that could not happen for the Bengals to win that game was exactly what happened. The Bills go down and have a 4-play drive capped off by a 40-yard rush of Josh Allen and took a minute and 11 seconds off the clock. We do this all the time. What do we do? Tick, 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 tick. You take a 2-possession lead in the fourth quarter. Your best friend is that clock. And their defense couldn't come up in those 4 plays to get a loss of yards, an incompletion. It was bingo, bango, bongo, into the end zone, makes it a 3-point game. The Bengals then return a pass to Noah Fant for 15 yards, a pass to Jamar Chase for 16 yards. They're in Buffalo's territory. And so many times on this show I've said, and I truly believe this, when all is said and done, Jamar Chase will go down as the greatest Bengal in the history of Cincinnati. That's including Anthony Munoz. I truly believe that Jamar Chase will go down as the greatest Bengal ever and one of the greatest wide receivers ever. And I say get the ball in his hands as frequently as possible, whether it's those little skip passes, screen plays, whatever it is, end arounds. We got to get the ball in Jamar Chase's hands. And the Buffalo Bills run a cornerback blitz, perfectly timed, and Joe Burrow tries to get a little entry pass, like a lob pass in basketball over top of the defender, returned. All right, still here, still a 1-score game. How do we respond? The next play, tipped at the line of scrimmage, turned over, and it was too tall of a task. And it's like I said, it's the margins for victory for the Cincinnati Bengals is so thin. But Casey, who in your mind, and I feel like we make excuses for Joe Burrow a lot, rightfully so, but we don't have the game we have today without Joe Burrow. We saw what it was the last few games with Joe Flacco. We saw what it was with a lot of games with Jake Browning. We're not in that game without Joe Burrow. Who does this loss ultimately fall on?
I mean, I think honestly, if Joe Burrow doesn't make that mistake, that pick 6 was brutal. I mean, that is the game-changing point. That is the point in which the lead changed, momentum changed significantly. Again, kudos to the Bills defense for making that sort of play, for being aggressive. Yeah. But, man, if he just holds on to that ball, if he doesn't try to force it, try to make a play.
Correct. Hold on to it. Just take a knee.
Take a knee, take a sack, whatever. Maybe even try to run it. Who cares? If you don't throw that ball, that game is still in your control, and you can still try to make something out of nothing later on down the stretch. That to me is the turning point of this game. And again, unfortunate for Joe, the tip ball. It can go any way. It can go the offensive way. It can go the defensive way. It didn't. It went towards the Bills, and they made a great play again, intercepting him back-to-back plays. It's very reminiscent, I guess, of the Bears game in 2021.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
I'm glad it was 4 straight plays or 3 straight plays.
Yeah, it was back-to-back turnovers, Joe Burrow making critical mistakes. And, again, they weren't even in a position to win that game without Joe. But, again, when you're in a position like Joe where everything hinges on you being basically perfect, very similar to last year, the game can be in your control. And then and there, it was in his control and fell out of his control very quickly.
Yeah, no, it was 1 or 2 really bad decisions. He made a bad pass in the first half that was well behind the receiver, but other than that, he was, just dropping dots everywhere. The pass to Tee Higgins that kind of made the game a little more interesting. Some passes to Mike Gesicki. Like, Joe Burrow is truly one of the elite quarterbacks in the game, but he did make a mistake today, a really poorly timed, a really poorly sought-out play that lost the game for the Bengals. And listen, I asked you, I kind of put you in a bad spot. I said, who does this loss fall on? Because now this is the 9th loss of the season. The Bengals' playoff odds aren't dead, but they are certainly in hospice. And through the 9 losses to this point in the season, 8 of them, you can kind of just be like, man, this team's not good enough. Zach Taylor has put the team in a terrible position. But here we are in this one, and there's a couple plays where you go, all right, well, why can't we stop Josh Allen on 3rd and 15 to at least give us a chance? Why do we have to make that turnover? Why does Josh Allen go for 40 yards? And you got to remember, Josh Allen's maybe the best quarterback on the planet right now. Joe Burrow has something to say about that. But it just proves, and I said this earlier already on the post game, just how small the margins are, which is why I was always cautious for getting overly excited, even with Joe Burrow coming back, that this team has a chance to make the postseason. Because I just saw how thin all the margins were. Joe Burrow played borderline perfect for 48 minutes, or 58 minutes. It was 2 plays, 2 decisions, in which lost the Bengals the game from the offensive side, and there was a lot from the defensive side, but we knew the defense was going to take their licks against Josh Allen and this defense, or that offense, because that's what this defense for the entire season has been, at a historically bad and at a hilariously bad defense at times. One of the worst in the history of the sport. So we knew this defense was going to act like that. It's hard. It's just hard to fathom this. I'll pivot to this. The NFL, game to game, week to week, team to team, season to season, almost every single game, it's the reason that the sport is as popular as it is. 3, 4, 5 plays are the difference makers in who wins and who loses. Today, as the loser, we can say, oh, it was the pick 6. Oh, it was the turnover, the next play. Oh, it was letting Josh Allen go for the first down on 3rd and 15 when you're looking like you might be getting the ball back with a minute to play. But if we won this game today, the Bills, we win by 3 points. The Bills are looking at it like, oh, James Cook fumbled the ball in the end zone. James Cook fumbled the ball on the sideline a few plays prior to that. Oh, we had several stops in the red zone. Like there's a world, there's a universe in which the Bengals don't lose this game by 5 points. This Bengals team loses this game by 3 touchdowns if things fall the Bills' way. Not just if the things fall the Bengals' way, and they're winning this game. There's 5 plays that have a 20-point swing either way for this team, and it's just unfortunate because we understand that the margins are so thin, and it's frustrating. So now, where do we go from here? This Bengals team is now 4-9. And similar to where they play every single week, the margin to make the postseason, which is what the aspirations are because Joe Burrow is playing. The margin to make the postseason is incredibly thin. We're going to need both the Steelers and the Ravens to lose 9 games, and we're going to need to win out. Casey, I don't know where you were before the game because I hadn't talked to you about it a whole lot, about the Bengals having any opportunity to make the postseason, but where are you at sitting right now?
Well, as of this second, the Steelers just won 27-22 against Baltimore. That puts them at 7-6. Bengals sitting at 4-9. You would need Pittsburgh to lose at least 3 games, remainder of their season. And that, to me, is a really tall ask. They play Miami, they play Detroit, they play Cleveland, they play Baltimore again. And, by the way, they play Baltimore in Pittsburgh. They just beat Baltimore in Baltimore today. So, for me, my playoff aspirations are an all-time low. I probably gave myself some sort of fool's hope here entering in today, thinking that there was a chance, but clearly the defense is just not ready. It's just not put together enough to be able to put together a sustainable playoff run. So for me, my focus switches to evaluation mode. It switches to
okay, so before we get into evaluation mode of what we did, let's ask this question.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, this team had kind of made waves because Zach Taylor assumingly got annoyed by Trey Hendrickson questions. Yeah. I don't know how many games Trey Hendrickson's played, but the Bengals, they didn't franchise tag him, but they didn't give him an extension. They gave him a pay raise.
Correct. Yeah.
They did not extend him. He had 1 year left on his thing. He said he wasn't going to play under that certain contract. They gave him $14 million extra to make it up to $30 million to play. And Trey Hendrickson is a guy on this team that you expect. What are edge rushers more than anything? When your team's leading late, they're able to get to the quarterback. They're able to put him down. They're able to win you that game. They're the closers. They're the Mariano Riveras. They're the Emilio Pagans. They're whoever. Name a closer, the Bruce Sutter, the Lee Smith from old times, Billy Wagner, whatever. That's what Trey Hendrickson's supposed to do. And the head coach, who we both aren't super high on when it comes to Zach Taylor, he was getting annoyed by answering questions about Trey, and it started. You started reading through the tea leaves about saying, okay, is he upset? And we go, all right, is Trey Hendrickson actually healthy enough to play, and he's making a business decision? There's no way to know if Trey Hendrickson is healthy enough to play. But I think we understand that he is a selfish player. I don't think I'm going out on a ledge by saying that. I don't think I'm going out on a ledge at all by saying that because he's shown that throughout his entire career. If he's healthy enough to play, then I don't think I'm also going too far out on a ledge and saying he lost us the game by not playing today.
Well, I mean, as a whole, the defense lost us the game. I don't think you can really blame it on one player. It's not fair of me to just blame it on Joe Burrow, despite it being that one significant play that completely changes momentum. I mean, I'm looking at the timeline here of all the plays. They did not punt one time. Every single time they had the ball, they were either in the red zone scoring a touchdown, or they, of course, fumbled it or had a turnover on downs. But, again, the defense – maybe you're right. Maybe it was because Trey didn't show up today and we needed our closer to come in and make a play. It's really unfortunate. We really won't know until we get more information. The Bengals are kind of closed-lipped on that sort of the conversation.
Sure.
The annoyance from Taylor's part is probably because he doesn't have an answer. He doesn't really have an update for us.
Or one that he doesn't want to share publicly.
So it's just like, you know, until the end of the season, we really don't know what to make of Trey Hendrickson. Clearly, we've lost on that deal. If we're looking at our offseason retrospectively, we clearly lost on that deal.
There was a guy who was upset about that deal when it happened.
Yeah. I was not on that camp.
Yeah, you were very positive of the deal.
I was very positive, yeah.
Because we got 2 weeks of practice for Trey Hendrickson, and now he's played, 5 games this year? Here's what I'll say. Armani Brown in our chat just said this. You can't expect Joe Burrow to go out there and score on 90% of his drives every game and to win against every single team. That is absolutely true. There is absolutely no doubt. And for the first time this year, in games in which we're doing post games and we're talking about losses, we could typically, more often than not, pinpoint it as, Jake Browning played terrible today. Or, the defensive unit played terrible today. Or, why couldn't they stop Colston Loveland on a 57-yard play with 40 seconds to go? Once again, the defense played terrible. Or Joe Flacco didn't play well. Or there was always one point of focus that it made these post-game talks really easy to do because you could just sit and complain and whine and moan about it all. Today, there's a little bit of nuance because, the defense didn't play well enough in the second half, as they haven't really all season long in the second half. One of the worst historically bad defenses in the second half all season long. But also, the starting quarterback, Joe Burrow, who is the best quarterback to probably ever lace up in stripes and might go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest in franchise history, maybe Hall of Famer, and maybe the best in the league when he's playing. He's obviously hurt all the time. He was elite for 58 minutes or 95% of the snaps, but he made 2 really bad plays late in the game, which we have unfortunately seen before. That's the reason. So it's a really hard time. It's a really hard thing to talk about is why is this Bengals team in the position that they're in at this current moment, when we know that it's a multitude of facets. It's a multitude of things. One of them is, I don't think Zach Taylor's a fantastic coach. One of them is, I don't think Duke Tobin is pretty clearly a terrible evaluator of defensive talent, or at least with Zach Taylor in his ear hole, helping them pick or Lou Anarumo or Al Golden helping them pick guys like Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart and McKinley Jackson. It's pretty clearly that's too. And we're clearly in this position because, the starting quarterback who is elite, who might be the best quarterback on the earth when he's playing, is hurt quite a bit. So you're sitting around wondering, why is this team 4-9 when they had aspirations to do much more, and they're likely going to be on the outside looking in of the postseason for the 3rd consecutive year? And the simple question is, the blanket answer is, the organization as a whole just isn't top-notch. The ownership isn't very good. The player evaluation isn't very good. The player development isn't very good. In fact, the only 2 things that are very good are when the quarterback's playing and the offense and the offensive play caller are pretty good. Everything else is pretty below the belt. Casey, I don't know if you have any final points or anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to this game.
Yeah, just kind of looking back at what we said at the halftime show, all the things that needed to be done in order to win this ball game, they did exactly the opposite of all those things. They weren't able to run the ball. They weren't able to win the turnover battle. They weren't able to wrap up and limit the big plays from happening time and time again. Really, a lot of things stemming from the defense. And like you said, defensively, this group is just not good enough. It's not up to snuff. It's just not a playoff-worthy defense. And the fact that we have to sit here and kind of like pseudo-blame Joe for 2 really bad plays, very fluky plays, might I add, for this loss is just – it's really just not fair to him, but it's the truth. And unfortunately, it all kind of goes back to the organization and how how poor their practices are. Unfortunately, we've got, another 4 or 5 games left.
Right.
What do you play for at this point? I don't know. I'd like to see Joe Burrow keep playing, of course, because I love him and I want to see more of him, especially healthy. But at some point, you got to think what's best for our future, and a better draft pick makes more sense.
Right.
We're in a weird spot now where there's a 1% chance that they can make it at this point.
Right. Yeah, we're going to need the Ravens, and Ravens have 7 losses. They're going to need 2 more losses. We're going to need the Steelers to lose 3 of their last 4 games in which we do not play the Steelers. And then we're going to need to win out on top of that. Not happening. That's a long way of saying it's not happening. I do want to get to a few chats. People were talking about Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight and the linebacking crew. I've already said the fact that they were unable to get Josh Allen, one on that 40-yard touchdown run that put the Bills back into the game after we took a 10-point lead with 8 minutes to play, and then on 3rd and 15 with the Bengals getting a chance to get the ball back with a minute left. That's another terrible play in which the linebackers just point-blank have to come up with a play. Plays that we've seen Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt in years prior, and I was one of the first people to cast off Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson because linebackers in this league, they don't stick around more often than not for a long time, and I just thought those two hadn't played up to their pay scale, so I was cool with drafting new guys. Well, Barrett Carter has shown us absolutely nothing this year. He's shown us never a moment of that Barrett Carter kid can play a little bit. Demetrius Knight hasn't really either, but at least there's been a couple plays all right, that's a nice play from Demetrius Knight. Both players are 2 of the last players in PFF, Pro Football Focus, graded linebackers year to year. So it's almost like we're going to have to start over with the linebacking crew in which we tried this problem of, hey, let's get these young guys, let's see what we can do. Secondly, I saw this guy. I saw this in the chat. Sports Fisher, 9677, said, garbage to claim Trey is selfish, but 3 guys are not for getting paid. Poor logic read. The difference there, because you are right, as someone that plays professional football, that is their job. And as a human being, if you're married, if you've got a family, your number one job as a professional should always be, I've got to take care of those who rely on me. Trey Hendrickson was doing that. Tee Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow all got paid. I'm not calling Trey Hendrickson selfish for wanting to get paid. The reason I'm calling him selfish, and I will call him selfish, is because Joe Burrow has no reason to play right now. And what does he do? He comes back early from another injury, and he comes back to play. Jamar Chase, throughout his entire run, has proven to be a team player, so has Tee Higgins. And Tee Higgins has more often, a lot of times, had these soft tissue injuries where you're like, is he really hurt? What's going on there? But when he's healthy, he goes out there to play. And there are questions, not just from guys at Smoke Justis like me and Casey right now that are wondering if Trey Hendrickson's healthy enough to play. There's guys in the media here in Cincinnati are wondering he's well enough to play. If you can read the tea leaves, maybe you're reading a little too deep in the way that Zach Taylor's answering questions about Trey Hendrickson. The reason I'm calling Trey Hendrickson selfish is because from the moment that he signed an extension with this team 3 years ago, he has wanted a pay raise or another extension. He was unhappy with the thing that he sat down and paid for. It's a much different situation than when Jamar Chase wanted an extension because he got paid whatever his draft slot was. He doesn't have any say in how much he gets paid. That's just what he gets paid. Trey Hendrickson sat down with the team, said, yeah, I'll play for you for 3 years under this much money. And from the second he made that contract decision, he said, I don't like it anymore. And then every year he's made a big what to do, and it's been the biggest story in town ever since that happened. And that's why I call him selfish. And yes, I am questioning if he is healthy enough to play right now, because if he wasn't healthy enough to play, he should be on the IR or should be on the PUP list, or he should be constantly. Instead, we're going to do this thing tomorrow like, oh, Trey Hendrickson might not play again. He hasn't played in over a month. So that's why I consider him selfish. And there's not a doubt in my mind that if he played against the Bears or played against the Jets, we win at least one of those games. And I think that if he plays today, we might be winning this game as well. putting a little more pressure on him. So that's why I've said this about Trey Hendrickson time and time again, and I'm sorry to go there, but it's very frustrating, him as a player. He's been the greatest free agent signing in Bengals history, but as of late, he has let the team down. And these are professionals. You got to take care of your family first. More power to you. But I also, as someone here that just does this off the rip more often than not, I also get the right to sit there and go like, I don't think that's fair what you're doing to this team. All right, Bengals will play the Baltimore Ravens next Sunday at home. I think you were going into this a little earlier. Is it just purely the only thing you want, to be blunt, is Joe Burrow to stay healthy and for them to lose as many games as to get the best draft capital, or are you still holding on to hope that 8 and 9 can get you in?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'm not telling you guys what to do, but personally, I'm done with any sort of playoff hopes. Even if they get in, I just don't expect this defense. I don't expect Joe Burrow to be perfect. There's just too much riding on too many people that aren't good enough in the building. And for me, I think I am in the evaluation mode now. I'm trying to see who is going to stay here as a Bengal in 2026 and who I'm getting the heck out the door. Because as we mentioned earlier, the linebacker situation, we tried to address it, and it just looks horrendous. It just does not look like it is good enough. The safety group has been pretty poor all season long, minus last couple weeks. Today they were so-so. You're also going to have to make decisions about players that are, getting older. Your Orlando Brown Jr. isn't getting any younger.
Neither are we.
Yeah, neither are we. Ted Karras, I know you just extended him, but you got to make some decisions, man. And unfortunately for the Bengals, it comes after pretty much missing out on the playoffs for a third straight season. And for me, I'm hoping next week that they crush the Ravens, right? I want to take care of our division as much as the next person, but I'm also considering what a higher draft spot might benefit us, considering how poor we've done at our current draft slots, being in that like mid-tier, that 17 to 20 range. I'd like to see what they can do with the top 10 pick and see if they can get some
seems like the only
player.
one they can hit on. Seems like the only way they can hit on it is if it is a top 10 pick. Here, if you want the spin, zone, you're now entering the Smoke Justis Covington, Kentucky spin zone. If you want the spin zone of all this, it is that good can come out of this game. And the good that can come out of this game is change at the top of the organization. Because if they had continued to win, if they had made the postseason, it wouldn't even be what would happen. They might have gotten an extension. Zach Taylor might have gotten an extension. Duke Tobin might have gotten an extension. But if you are, like me, in the opinion that neither one of those guys are do fit to run this team or to get this team over the hump that is consistent success, then what you want isn't just losing to get a better draft pick. It's losing so that, hey, what happens if the Ravens miss out on the postseason and John Harbaugh becomes available? What happens if the Steelers won today, but what happens if the Steelers hear to their fans and they get rid of Mike Tomlin? What happens if the Bills want to get rid of Joe Brady? What happens if, this is a lesser name, but like Mike McCarthy, he's available? Like what happens if these big names come available and you rightfully think, I think this team would be in a better situation if we had John Harbaugh as the head coach. I think this team would be in a better situation if we had someone else directing player personnel. We don't have a general manager. We have a director of player personnel. That's how backwards this team is. We don't even have a general manager. We have a pseudo, de facto general manager, but we don't have one. So the spin zone is, by losing this game, it does open up the door for things that we have talked about for most of the season now. It's significant change amongst the team. It's some program or franchise-altering change that can say, all right, you know what? I think 2026 will be different. I think 2026 will be a year in which we don't start off slow. 2026 will be a year in which we draft some decent defensive talent. 2026 will breathe new life or hope springs eternal or whatever the phrase is that this team can finally get out of the mud that their two-wheel drive truck is spinning around in. That's the spin zone of all this. The Bengals are 4-9. They are 3-1 with Joe Burrow as the head coach, or Joe Burrow as the starting quarterback. And the real pain of this season isn't the interception that Joe Burrow threw today, the pick six that was just a freak play. It isn't the Josh Allen scampering away for 18 yards. It's not the Colston Loveland 57-yard touchdown. It's a culmination of it all. And the fact that when Joe Burrow was gone for 8 weeks, they couldn't muster up more than one win. 1-7 in the 8 weeks that Joe Burrow was gone is simply inexcusable. And any righteous team, any self-respecting team would move off of the guys that make the decisions at the top of the franchise. But we know here in Cincinnati, that's not bloody likely to happen. Casey, we do have a couple super chats. So we will get to them. I don't know how many of these are from the actual game, but Justin Edgel said, hey, Casey, he's been a member for 26 months. I need you on a profanity-laced, I assume, not placed, but a profanity-laced tirade on Zach Taylor. We need to pick me up. Casey, you're not allowed doing that on this show.
No, I can't do that here live here on this show today. But what I will say is that I'm ready for significant change. Whatever that means, whatever the organization feels that means, I would like them to do that. I'm ready for a change of the guard, whether that's changing the GM, or getting a GM, which probably means you're getting rid of the whole coaching staff, or maybe you're just getting rid of the coaching staff. I don't care what it looks like. We just need something to show that they are not willing to stand for mediocrity any longer.
Sure.
That this is what it is. This is mediocrity at its finest. Going 8-9, 7-10, barely missing out on the playoffs is just not acceptable, especially when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow who has to be perfect. We shouldn't have to say that about any player in any sport,
right?
In any point in history.
If you had a starting pitcher that had to throw a shutout every single game, you know it's not the starting pitcher giving up the one solo home run in the 7th inning is why you lost the game.
Correct. And it's just like at some point, decision makers need to be held accountable. Hopefully they feel the same way that we do and take action. I know historically we look at the Marvin Lewis era and how long he had to get it right. But at the same time, he built 2 different eras of winning football with Carson and with Dalton. Zach Taylor without Joe Burrow has been awful.
Sure. You say what you want about the Marvin Lewis era. At least they didn't have the same problem we have here, which is the defense is completely inept. And the defensive guys that we're drafting year in and year out aren't complete scrubs. Marvin Lewis knew defense. He was a defensive coordinator for Baltimore before becoming the head coach here. So, by the way, can we somehow get? I know Marvin Lewis is doing consulting. Can we bring him into the building to help out with the draft personnel just to get a different voice in there? Because clearly Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor, Al Golden, Lou Anarumo weren't doing a good enough job on the defensive side of the ball. We had another super chat. This one comes from CL Robinson 513, $2 super. I don't trust them with a top 10 pick, maybe top 7. Also fair.
Very fair.
The only picks that we have seen in the first round, the Bengals hit on, without a doubt hit on, in the Zach Taylor era are 2. Joe Burrow, where there was no decision-making, first overall pick, everyone agreed. And then the next year, where you had a decision to be made, and to be quite frank, either decision they would have made was a home run. between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. You're either getting a franchise left tackle, perennial all-pro, not just a Pro Bowler, perennial all-pro tackle, or you're getting possibly the greatest wide receiver when it's all said and done in Jamar Chase. So it's just a lot, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just every time it's Godfather 3. It's Godfather 3. Just when they thought I was out, pull me back in, and then they chop us off right at the knees. One more time. So the season's not completely dead, Casey. It's in hospice. It's almost dead. It's the only thing that you hear from the room are beep, 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 and you're just checking in every once in a while, just making sure the vitals are okay. But they're going to need to win out. They're going to need the Steelers to lose 3 games. They're going to need the Ravens to lose another game on top of the game that we play them next week. The worst-case scenario today was that the Ravens lost and we lost. That's what happened. But it really just, I don't even feel like talking about all of that. We got a $10 super chat. Ben Riley says, keep Flacco, move on from Browning, get a defense, keep people like Bates or DJ Reader, Hilton, etc. focus on the division. Also make special teams a bit better. I want to break this apart. This is a good super chat from Ben Riley. And when this is the final thing. Keep Flacco, move on from Browning. If Joe Flacco wants to play next year and he's willing to be the backup to Joe Burrow, that's a no-brainer. Because I think we all agree that Jake Browning cannot be the backup quarterback here in town again. If Joe Flacco wants to retire, wants to move on with his life, then we've got to go out, spend money, $3-4 million on a backup quarterback. It doesn't need to be one of the higher end guys like Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins. I think is done, but Mac Jones even might be getting a full. It doesn't need to be one of those guys, but it needs to be a guy that has had starter experience and a guy that can win us 1 out of 8 games. Right? We had 8 games this year without our starting quarterback. We won 1 of them. So if Flacco wants to come back, cool with that. Jake Browning, you can no longer be the backup. Get a defense. Easier said than done. Love the sentence. That's a 3-word sentence, and there is no fluff on that one. I mean, that's as trim as a sentence as you can get. Yeah, get a defense. I'm in. I'm all on board. I don't know what that looks like. But keep people like Bates or DJ Reader, Hilton. The Bengals were in a situation 4 years ago where they had a lot of really good players. When you have a lot of really good players, the decision-making's tough. Because you have to decide, well, this guy's a good player, but we might have to let him go. And that's what they had to do with Jesse Bates, which at the time, the safety position, and still to this day, at that time it was much different than it is now. I think it's more rewarding now, but at the time, the safety position was kind of a dime a dozen position. And I think interior defensive line play is such a premium that you can continue to get those guys like DJ Reader, Mike Hilton. That I understand all the decision-making with those 3 guys. But I think we made the wrong one, obviously, with Jesse Bates, which hey, you were right about that one. You were right about that one. DJ Reader, obviously this team would be better with DJ Reader, but I understood the process of all that. Focus on the division. This team might go 5-1 on the division this year. And how are we doing it? We're zagging when everyone else is zigging. Everyone's a run-heavy, bruising team. We're kind of a, whatever team. Special teams has been fantastic this year. I won't say that. $5 super chat says Joe's presser was revealing he's starting to check out. Big changes or Joe leaving. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired. I don't think Joe Burrow. Do you think Joe Burrow is going to retire?
No, he's not going to pull Carson Palmer necessarily on the Bengals, but
or an Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I don't expect that to happen. Plain and simple. But there is a good chance that he's checking out unless big changes happen. He might be out on Zach Taylor. Who knows? It's hard to tell because we're not in the building. We're not able to ask him. So moving on from that, back to the original question here, or the original thing that we were breaking down here. It would be nice to keep people like Bates, DJ Reader, and Hilton, but they're gone.
I think the Bengals are.
So
I think they've learned their lesson there. Keeping controllable guys in the house is something that they're not going to do. Not going to make the mistake of again.
You know what? That's very similar to. It's like saying we should keep Trey Hendrickson. former best edge rusher in 2024. That's basically what you're kind of ensuing a little bit here. Keep guys like Bates, Reeder, Hilton. In that scenario, you're keeping Trey Hendrickson. So
that's right.
I'm not sure if I'm all the way on board on that. I do agree with Reed with the processes. They've been fine. They've just been wrong. And unfortunately for the Bengals, that comes down to the decision-making and the talent evaluation, which we've hit time and time again on this show in particular, but throughout the entire season, if you watch any of our other shows, we've been very critical of those guys, the Duke Tobins. A lot of the decision-making is affected by the coaches in the room. Unfortunately, I think it's time to make significant changes to the staff. I think that's the only way that you're going to see anything significant get done.
What's the percentage that you think that either Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor come back next year?
Unfortunately, I think it's a very high likelihood.
Like 95%, right?
Yeah, like they have their built-in excuse. They have their built-in excuse with Joe getting hurt.
All right. Well, that wraps things up here for us at Chatterbox Bengals. Thank you so much for everyone that came out to Smoke Justis and Covington. We had a really good crowd during the game. Pre-game show, halftime show was fantastic. Thank you so much to Craig Sandlin, who did the watch-along. I appreciate him. He's done now the last 3 watch-alongs. I think he's going to do the next one, too. So I appreciate him helping us out. Casey, thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, thank you, everyone who came down. Thank you, everyone who watches this. We really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun other than the Bengals. Maybe one year when we're doing this, we'll get good Bengals games. We'll get a good Bengals team. Can you imagine if we were doing this whole watch-along thing when the Bengals were ripping it off into the AFC Championship game?
Would have been electric. Although we were sitting in Burrowhead Stadium when they were good, so
that's true.
I mean,
you were at Highmark Stadium when they won a snowy game up in Buffalo a few years ago.
I was.
All right, thank you guys so much. This does it for us here at Chatterbox Bengals. For Craig Sandlin in the watch along, for Stone Shields, who is here for the pregame, and the halftime for Casey McAllister, our producer and content guy extraordinaire. I'm Reed Mouse signing off. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Off the Bench, starting out at 10 a.m. here right on Chatterbox's Sports channel. See you guys around.